I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I have spent almost 50 years doing this thing called martial arts. And I have participated in virtually every aspect of martial arts that there is. And my conclusion is still the same as it relates to sports, martial arts, fighting. It's not real fighting. Yes, it does have its place. Yes, it is beneficial. It helps in many aspects of one's capabilities and or abilities. However, there's a distinct dividing line between sports, martial arts, fighting, and street fighting. They are not the same. That's why they have two different names: sport and real or actual fighting. So when people tell me that Chuck Norris, for example, was a 3, 4, 5-time world champion, and they try to equate that with his ability as a street fighter, they are wrong. Now, it doesn't mean that Chuck Norris is not a great street fighter, but my point in that statement is that they are trying to say that anyone that is a world champion in sport karate fighting is also a great fighter in the street. And that is not true at all. That is not the case. Now, if Chuck Norris is a street fighter and he's good at it, I don't know. But I'm saying people need to stop comparing the two and having them on the same level, because they're not. Now, not necessarily. There are people that are great sport karate fighters, or kung fu fighters if you will, and great street fighters. And there are people who are great sports karate people and not so good street fighters, because it doesn't translate that well, and it depends on the individual skill sets of the person. But it's not uniformly across the board the same. So we must understand that there are guys that I would stake my reputation on, and there are guys that I would bet on to be with me in a street confrontation, and I would have no trepidation at all if they were taking my back in a street confrontation. Chuck Norris might be one of them. If Jim Kelly was alive, Jim Kelly might be one of them. Moses Powell would have been one of them. Victor Moore could have been one of them, and the list goes on. But my point is, stop saying that sport karate champions are great street fighters when we don't know that. Some of them are, some of them are not. So the whole argument or discussion all evolved from the comparison of many of Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. Every time Bruce Lee's name came up along with Chuck Norris's name as it related to them sparring, Chuck Norris in his interviews would say, well, at the time I was the middleweight champion of the world, or 5-time world champion. Whatever the case was, he said that he was the champion. Go figure. To me, that's arrogance, number one. And also, number two, he's comparing a sport karate champion to someone who actually was studying the art of pugilism, taking notes, writing books, doing videos, and teaching self-defense for the most part, and not traditional martial arts per se. There's nothing wrong with tradition, so don't get me wrong, so don't get that twisted. I came up traditionally, and I understand that, and I have a profound respect for it. But again, before I conclude, as it relates to Chuck Norris and being a world champion, kudos. I love Chuck Norris. I respect him. I like some of his films that he has done, not all of them, but I like some of the films that he has done, especially his TV show that was very successful, Walker, Texas Ranger. I love that. I have an autograph from Chuck Norris when I was a teenager. But where the rubber meets the road, when you're comparing Chuck Norris as a world champion sports martial artist to a Bruce Lee, there is no comparison. That's it. And that is all. This is Brother Teacher. What's your point of view? I'm out.